The top G just can't stay away from controversy, but this time his opinions might generate mixed reactions and might make even more people very uncomfortable. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a subject that has taken the internet by storm recently, the ever-controversial figure from the combat sports world, Andrew Tate. Now, there's no denying that Andrew Tate is certainly a polarizing figure. The former kickboxer turned internet celebrity has made headlines recently for a controversial tweet that seems to glorify violence. In the tweet, Tate argues that violence is the absolute underpinning of every civilized society. He claims that those who say they don't believe in violence are lying, since they indirectly endorse it by relying on violent institutions like the police for protection. Tate also asserts that people who disregard the importance of violence are just trying to delude themselves to compensate for their own perceived inadequacies. Most provocatively, he warns against letting women or weaklings shape opinions about the necessity of violence. Tate's views, while extreme, touch on some hotly debated questions. What role does violence play in the development of societies? Is it an inevitable part of civilization, or something that holds us back? And who gets to define what constitutes legitimate violence? On one hand, it's true that violence has profoundly shaped human history. Empires and nations have often been built through military conquest and bloodshed. Revolutions to overthrow oppressive regimes frequently involve armed uprising. Violence can serve to destroy corrupt existing power structures and open the door for new ones. And even today, the threat of violence underpins much of law enforcement and state authority. During the Second World War, the United States of America demolished 2 cities by dropping atomic bombs, killing over 200,000 people in the process. But they claim that they dropped the bomb to bring peace to the world. So, does it mean peace and violence are correlated? Tell us in the comments. Anyway, moving on. So, Tate arguably overstates the case when he calls violence the absolute underpinning of civilization. The human story is far more nuanced. Many societies have been built on principles of nonviolence, moral courage, and gradual grassroots reform. The civil rights movement in America and the movement for Indian independence led by Gandhi proved that nonviolent resistance can successfully challenge institutionalized violence and injustice. Social change often happens incrementally through education, dialogue, and rejection of simplistic us versus them thinking. Tate's claim that those who don't embrace violence are lying also deserves scrutiny. When citizens pay taxes to fund police and military, does that mean they inherently endorse all uses of violence by those institutions? Most would likely say no. People want protection from harm and mechanisms to uphold law, which does not mean it's a blanket statement to resolve all conflict through violence. There are people who, due to their principles or faith, strive to reduce and avoid violence in their lives. Suggesting these people are all deceptive and hypocritical seems both counterproductive and cynical. Also, when governments opt for violence to implement law and order, it's in the form of self-defense, not offense, in most cases. If the culprit is harmless and is willing to surrender, not only do they have a lenient approach, but they also don't opt for violence unnecessarily. Even when you get arrested, police tell you not to resist because if you do, you're being offensive and the police will have to do something for their defense. But the reality remains complex. While violence has shaped history, so too have philosophy, art, science, and moral courage. Societies depend on constellations of factors and virtues that cut across gender, race, and creed. Perhaps in these polarized times, we could benefit from resisting oversimplified narratives. Reducing violence and conflict requires looking beyond categories of strong and weak and recognizing each person's fundamental worth. Perhaps most disturbing are Tate's references to females and weaklings. Here, he moves from analyzing the conceptual role of violence in civilization to making much-targeted assertions about gender and power, categorizing women as monolithic groups and implying their opinions are invalid in troubling misogyny. This rhetoric about male physical dominance being the only true marker of strength also dangerously overlaps with toxic strands of patriarchal and fascist thought. Even when Andrew Tate is known for making such derogatory statements against women, he has hit a new low, and we are not surprised. No wonder women hate him so much that some wish he never existed. In reality, the contributions of women throughout history have been incredibly multifaceted, and female thinkers and activists like Arundhati Roy, Angela Davis, Emma Goldman, and Malala Yousafzai have profoundly shaped social discourse and notions of courage. Women on the front lines of conflict zones and resistance movements have displayed remarkable bravery and resilience. It takes great strength to see your son or daughter go out for war while accepting the fact that they might not come back from it. Reducing half of humanity to a simplistic and derogatory stereotype detracts from Tate's overall arguments about the complex interplay between violence and civilization. The same is true of Tate's blanket dismissal of weaklings. Strength comes in many forms: physical, intellectual, emotional, and moral. Humanity's greatest thinkers, artists, advocates, and innovators have moved society forward through nonviolent means, and physical weakness does not preclude someone from possessing inner fortitude, integrity, and wisdom. Albert Einstein famously said, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything." In other words, physical strength means little without the character to back it up. If fighting is Tate's criteria for strength, then women are just as strong as men, if not stronger. They had to fight to get to their right to work, to live, to vote, and to love whoever they want. I am not underestimating the sacrifices of a father or man in general, but insulting a woman who is a wife, daughter, a mother by claiming that she doesn't make sacrifices is beyond disgraceful. So how have people responded to Tate's polarizing tweets? As expected, reactions tend to fall into two camps. Some see his words as an uncomfortable truth. They feel Tate is simply being real about the inherent violence and darkness in human nature. Others find this rhetoric dangerous and repressive. They criticize Tate for his disturbing and offensive views on power and for promoting harmful types of masculinity. Both supporters and critics seem to agree that violence plays some role in upholding civilization, but they diverge sharply on whether violence should be celebrated and amplified or gradually transcended through other means. Andrew Tate may be currently under house arrest as he is facing allegations of human trafficking, domestic violence, rape, etc. However, he is still free to say anything on Twitter. He is giving controversial and outrageous statements every single day that spark debates between his supporters and haters. There is no denying that Andrew Tate is the flag bearer of toxic masculinity and patriarchy on social media, and it's crazy how many people actually support him. You have to feel sorry for the women who are either his supporters or are related to his supporters in any way. Tate's rise in popularity has coincided with a resurgence of far-right movements focused on male supremacy and anti-feminism across Europe and America. Issues around violence and gender have become a kind of culture war flashpoint. Considering Tate's toxic and problematic personality, it's hard to consider him innocent in the allegations leveled against him. Now, his views on violence confirms that he has a disturbing ideology, and role models like him will do more harm to our society. To wrap it up, whether you're nodding in agreement with Tate or shaking your head in disbelief, one thing's crystal clear. Societies are complex structures, and while violence has played a role, the most memorable milestone came from unity, dialogue, and mutual respect. That, my friends, is where the magic happens. That's all for today. If you enjoyed watching this video, press the like button, and if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.